The biggest mistake that I see almost all the time is that people start farming without a solid financial budget, a forecast, a business plan that's going to help them understand where they'll be in 5 years. That's really important. Where you want to be in 5 years with your farm is the golden answer. You need to have a clear picture of that in your head before you start your farm. And you need to have a business plan that's going to lay out the costs, the revenue, a projection of how you'll get there. That work is important in all businesses that you're going to start in life. But in farming, it's even more important because the margins are slim and the chance of getting where you want to go are very much determined by how you'll set up your objectives. So that's really, really important. Mistake number 2, okay? And this one is, I would say, fairly common and very problematic, is that most new growers are so excited about growing commercially these crops that they want to grow all of them at once. And you need to master how to grow a few crops before you add new ones. Because a recipe for disaster is growing too many crops and not knowing how to do all the steps of these crops correctly. You end up planting a lot of things and harvesting just a few things. And it's too much work and it's expenses. And so my recommendation that I've always given, and it's a proven advice, is that if you're new to market gardening, even if you've worked on a few farms or for a few years, this is your first year of market gardening on your own, choose 12 to 20 crops to grow and focus on these crops, making sure that these will be a success. The other ones, you'll add them as the years goes on. You'll add 5 to 10 every year, and you'll come prepared for all of these crops, and you'll make sure that you know how to grow the crop every time you grow them. Mistake number 3, and that's one that's really common, and it's because it's a lack of knowing better, is that people fertilize their crops blindly. Or another way to say it is that they don't have a fertility program, or they don't know how to fertilize correctly the crops that they grow. So a fertility program needs to balance 3 things. You need to balance your soil type, it needs to balance the crop that you're growing, and it needs to be balanced with a mixture of compost and different organic fertilizers according to soil type and plant. Okay? That all works together, and that's 101. You can go really further, you can look at all the trace minerals in your soil, you can try to adjust all of these, but the 101 is to make sure that you're not just blindly fertilizing with a recipe that you took on YouTube, or that you're just putting a lot of compost thinking that it's going to feed the plant on itself. Most plants require that you fertilize the soil and the plant. So you're going to be depending on if it's a heavy feeder or a light feeder, which is determined by the number of days that the crop stays in the field and the amount of volume that the plant will take. You will need to determine X amount of compost and X amount of organic fertilizers to work together so that the plant takes what it needs. Mistake number 4, it's not just what you want to grow, it's what you're going to sell. That's a big distinction. Like, growing for market involves selling, and you need to make sure that you're growing the crops that are most likely to be sold. So choosing the right crops is really determined by your markets, and your markets, you should have a pretty clear picture of what it is, what people are buying, how much you'll be selling of what. Like, your whole planting scenario, your whole crop planning, which is a big part of market gardening, like, is determined by what you'll be growing and when you'll be harvesting all of that, in which quantities. To figure this out, it's really simple, okay? You need to just establish each markets. Is it farmer's market? Is it a CSA? Is it a restaurant, farm to table like we have here? Or is it a grocery store, whatever? Just make sure that you have all these columns, and determine how much of each of your vegetable you'll be selling to all these markets every week. So 25 bunches of carrots for my farmer's market, 50 for my CSA, 10 for the restaurant. That's 75 for that given week. And you need to map out all of your production in time like this for all your revenue streams. Okay? Sounds complicated, but it's not. And that's how then you'll be able to crop plan all of these crops and get really good at planting what you exactly need. Mistake number 5, it's the last one I'll share. It's super common and it's really easy to avoid. And that mistake is the folly of working 7 days a week. Okay? When you're new to farming or when you're in your first few years, there's so much work. There's building greenhouses, there's building your clientele, there's creating all your systems, there's learning how to grow, there's learning how to manage. Like, there's so much work. It's endless amount of work. And too many inexperienced growers don't know that if you work 7 days a week, then you end up being less productive the following week. You absolutely need at least 1 day to rest, recharge your battery, refocus, replan, just kind of a little, 1 step back for 2 steps forward. That's a very common mistake that people make. And it's one that, again, from experience and from the experience of a lot of people that I've helped along the way, you're better off working 6 days a week. You'll get more done than if you're doing 7 days a week. Take 1 day off to rest, recharge, reconnect with your family, your friends, with yourself, and that's going to help you tremendously. I could go on and on and on, but I would invite you to understand that a farming journey is about making mistakes. So don't be too bad on yourself. Don't judge yourself. No one is watching over you. Like, this is your journey, this is your path, and making mistakes is part of the process. But again, there's things that you can avoid. There's a path of least resistance, and there's experience from people like me that can help you along your journey.